So I started out with 17 and I ended up with 12. It's not bad. Hi, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, and welcome to the most anticipated reads list for the month of March 2026. I really did have a longer list and I did cull it down as I went back, and I've been working on this for more than a week here and there, not diligently. I was thinking, oh, you know what? This one may not work for a lot of people. Oh, if I'm going to get rid of some of these, this would be one I could do, but that doesn't mean I won't take a look at them and maybe add them to my TBR. Maybe I should do it, didn't quite make it, but these are also coming out in March anticipated reads list, but not for right now. Let's just start with these and see how this goes. So I'm going to put some glasses on because I really don't know that I can see as well as I want to. I think I'm going to go without them and see what happens. So the first one, number one, is released on March the 3rd, and this is That's What Friends Are For by Wade Rouse. This one is another sort of adaptation based on the Golden Girls TV series, which I loved. I watch it over and over again. If I'm just in the mood for something light and funny, I will pop the Golden Girls on. There was a book that was also based on the Golden Girls that came out, I think, last year. I did not love that one. I really had trouble with it, but I'm hoping that this one is better. We shall see, right? I always say we shall see. This is about four men who live in a Palm Springs Oasis condominium, I think, or some kind of no, it's a mid-century home. I remember seeing that because I thought, oh, because we have mid-century decor, even though we're in a, brand new subdivision build, but nevertheless, Barry, no, so let's see. There's Theodore Campbell is the one who's created this space for them to live in Palm Springs. Barry is a former actor who's still trying to stay in his youth and not worry so much about aging, but he's definitely worried about aging. Let's see. Oh, and there was a dream role that killed his career. Also, I think important to know, Ron is an uprooted Christian from the Midwest, and has a big heart, but nobody seems to be falling for Ron or even connecting with Ron. And then Teddy is the caustic, unspoken leader of the Golden Gaze, which is what they've called it, who really, I guess, likes to bicker, and you know who that one might be like, right? So the harmony of this becomes a lot of emotional baggage as well. So they're all bringing in their relationships. They're all bringing in the things that have happened to them. And Teddy's estranged sister shows up on the doorstep, and that also creates some drama that they weren't expecting. So this is adult, this is contemporary fiction, LGBT, and humor. And I think it's a good way to start out the month because, I like humor, and it's kind of maybe a palate cleanser from some of the things I've been reading in the last few days. So there is That's What Friends Are For by Wade Rouse. The next one is Wait For Me by Amy Jo Burns. This one comes out on March 3rd as well. This one is a historical fiction because it kind of has, I think, two timelines, but also it's not necessarily contemporary, I don't think. I'm not sure. Anyway, it also could be something else, but I'm going to tell you what this is about, and then you tell me what you think. It has a 4.08 rating, which is definitely good. And I think if I like this, I might go back and take a look at Mercury as well. So this is about Ellie Harlow, and she's a singer, a folk singer in 1973, and Ellie can really sing. She has some great music, and she has the performance of her life one night at the Grand Ole Opry, on the Grand Ole Opry stage, and after that performance, she disappears. And people are just really upset because she was so fantastic, and they felt like she had this great career that could unfold before her. But then 2 decades almost later, 18-year-old Marjan Shaw is getting gas at the gas station, and she's writing songs as well, and she has a kind of a connection some way to Ellie or Elle Harlow. And her father has always sworn that this woman should still be alive. So I suspect that that's part of her connection. They must have been big fans of hers, but also, this is kind of a big deal, right? But the next thing you know, a meteor hits, which I'm trying to remember about Mercury, and I'm going to look it up after I get off doing this, but I feel like there was something about that was a little bit supernatural as well. Anyway, a meteor strikes the town or the woods that they live in Pennsylvania, and she mysteriously reappears. So this one talks about the hills of Appalachia. It also talks about Nashville and about music and about whatever might have happened while she was away. And I just can't imagine that this wouldn't be good. Let me know if this is one that you think would be good too. So it's music, fiction, historical fiction, literary fiction, adult for sure. And yeah, I think it sounds very unique. I love a unique plot for sure. All right, this next one is called Lake Effect, and this is by Cynthia Dupree Sweeney, and this has a 4.26 rating. Not a ton of people have read it yet, but this is a historical fiction and maybe romance, a little bit of romance, and difficult for some people. Cynthia Dupree Sweeney wrote The Nest, which I have on my shelves and I have not read, but it was always something that I was drawn to because of the plot. Now, this one is not for those of you who are not fans of reading about marital affairs and adultery. So again, this is not a Krista book, which we've all started calling these things this because of her channel Books and Jams. But this is about a family who's in 1977 in Rochester, New York, and they live on Cambridge Road. I don't know if that's important or not, but Nina Larkin is given a copy of The Joy of Sex by a friend of hers who's just divorced and was probably saying that she wasn't having good sex. So she gives her this book, and what happens then is she ends up opening herself up in a new way and starts to have a fling with her neighbor who is, she's never experienced anything like this before. Meanwhile, she has a teenager named Clara, and Clara discovers what's happening just as she's starting to become an adult and probably just now starting to think about her own sort of, libido and what she's wanting to choose to do or not to choose to do. So it tears their family a bit apart, as you can imagine, because they figure this out, that she's having this affair with the neighbor. So years later, Clara is now working in New York City. She's a food stylist. She's completely, I think, kind of detached from her family. She can't move past what happened, which we can all understand, but she has to go back home for a family wedding. And so this is about it's a family drama, but it's also about how people come to terms with decisions and decisions that turn lives upside down. And she also makes a decision that's going to disrupt her life a bit. And I do absolutely love books where people have made choices that their lives are kind of upended by. And while I don't love the topic of adultery, I do just sort of see this as, we're humans and we all make choices, and sometimes those choices aren't the best, but we generally learn from them. So I don't get the sense that this is steamy necessarily, but I do get the sense that it is deep and a family saga, so to speak. So I probably will read that one at some point, but I don't know if I'll buy it. All right, the next one is It Girl. This is clearly important for you to know. It is not The It Girl, which is a title that's been used frequently, including by Ruth Ware. This is It Girl. This is by Allison Pataki. This is number 4, and it is released on March 10th. Historical fiction. I know what's going on, but just hold on because this is also something else. And I love historical fiction. I just haven't read as many of those recently. This is set in the 1900s, or in 1900 in New York. A dawn of a new century. Teddy Roosevelt is president. Artists and models and other people are really kind of bringing in this, what would I call it? pop culture age in a way. Of course, not the same pop culture that we have now, but definitely innovative culture. I would also suggest that there are a lot of women that are looking for the same kind of innovative work that this particular character is, and her name is Evelyn Talbot. And she becomes kind of an America's sweetheart. There are now ways in which they can take photography because there are new bulbs and new sort of technology that's happening. It's kind of like the 1980s era for us. Like all the stuff just kind of came on board at one time. But nevertheless, Evelyn is sort of very sad because she's taking care of her brother who's young and her widowed mother because her father died. And she's just looking for something. She's been a shop girl for a long time, which is usually how these girls were sort of found. And she's recruited to be a model in a studio. But then some of this grows and develops over time as she meets different people along the way. She gets different opportunities along the way, and she becomes someone who's in this kind of high society world of fashion and of movies and television and a celebrity, a Gibson girl, essentially, which it says in the synopsis. So I'm assuming she literally becomes a Gibson girl. And I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about that because I'm sure that that's a whole nother conversation that I don't need to have today. And it's probably noted in the book. Nevertheless, she meets all of these playboys, all these men that are really just probably not the best for her. But somehow there is a murder that occurs. It's called the crime of the century. And the people that are looking at who did this are looking at her. They're looking at Evelyn. And Evelyn, I'm certain, didn't do it. So love this cover, love this premise, love this setting. It says in the sort of blurb, it's a breathtaking ride inspired by a singular artist and survivor who captured the heart of American society. So I'm assuming she's a real human being that we're now telling a story about, but it is not nonfiction. It is historical fiction, drama, and a lot of American history in it, which I also, of course, really appreciate. The next one is The Best Dog in the World, and this is by Alice Hoffman, but it's curated, and it's a number of other authors that have written essays on the love of a dog. The best dog in the world belongs to me. She's sitting right here. But this one is nonfiction essays about animals, short stories, and it looks really cute, but also I like Alice Hoffman. I've read a few of her things. I haven't read as many as I own. But I do think that this one would be a fun nonfiction read. And I actually have more than one nonfiction read on this list this time. So this is about the lifelong bond that others have with their canine companions. And this is contributed by Chris Bohalian, Roxane Gay, Emily Henry, Ann Leary, Tova Mirvis, Jodi Picoult, Elizabeth Strout, Amy Tan, Adriana Trigliani, Nick Trout, and Laura Zigman. Says it captures the full range of the canine human connection, from the joy of welcoming a new puppy to the heartache of saying goodbye to a beloved friend. As you all know, we have recently had to say goodbye to a foster that we had for just a few days, and I also can say that this was also the anniversary of the death of one of our other dogs that we had for a number of years as well, Charlotte. And so it could be tricky, this book. It could be sad, but I'm okay with sadness, but also not everybody is. So I just want you to know there are probably stories about end of life here, but I think this would be fantastic. There is a giveaway for this one, as for many of these, but I entered that giveaway with the high hope that maybe I am the person who will be able to get this. And it has a 4.63 rating, if I didn't tell you that already, and it just looks really cute for me. All right, the next one is Whidbey by Kira Madden. This one is a dark cover and it's a dark synopsis, let me just say. But this one caught my eye because I work for a woman who lives on Whidbey Island in Washington State, but off the coast, obviously. And she loves Whidbey Island. You can only get there by ferry, and I think it's very small, fairly small. So a lot of people know a lot of people, right? It's very kind of connective. And this novel. It has a really dark, dark, dark premise to it, but one that I can identify with, sadly, and one that I really want to see how this author managed this. So this is about Bertie Chang, who was assaulted by a man named Calvin Boyer when she was a younger person. I don't know what age, but she now is trying to escape onto Whidbey Island to get as far away as she can from Calvin, but also far from her friend who's discovered something about her. We don't know what. And she's very concerned. It may be that her name was released as a victim. I don't know. Fast forward to what happens next is there are other women who were harmed by Calvin, and one of them is a reality TV show star, and she writes a book about what happened to her, about her experience, which of course goes viral. And what happens to Calvin next is that he's found murdered. So who did it, and was it one or more of his victims, is really probably the question. It also discovers incarceration, rehabilitation. It talks about, obviously, about trauma and things that happen to young people, and whose story is told accurately, whose story is told or not told ever, which happens a lot, and just, obviously tricky stuff, right? So the pursuit of justice and who has the power in the pursuit of justice, especially in these cases where young children were victimized, and people often try to defend these perpetrators by saying that they didn't do it because the children made it up. Yeah, tricky, very, very tricky. March 10th, thriller, mystery, fiction, literary fiction, adult, and contemporary. This one is set in the current day. So if you can manage that one, I think it's an important read. So we'll see if I get to it. Judy Blume, A Life, was written by Mark Oppenheimer. This is nonfiction. Mark Oppenheimer typically writes biographies. In this case, Judy Blume also participates by telling some of the things that she wanted to have in the book, I think. I'm not quite sure. It's almost 500 pages, this one. Oppenheimer's books are often very chunky. But anyway, this is about a more than 55-year of work for Judy Blume as an author. So she was born as Judith Marcia Sussman in New Jersey. Her dad was a dentist, her mother was a homemaker, and she was restless when she became about 30, and she had kids and was a stay-at-home mom, and she started writing, just suddenly started to write at that time of her life. And so her first book was Iggy's House, which I always remember because we had a foster dog named Iggy, and I wanted to read Iggy's House while he was here, but I did not. Also, she's written Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. There's a lot of books that she has written. You might also be familiar with the fact that Judy Blume's books have been banned in many places, or have been asked to be banned by community leaders and by boards of supervisors and by council people. This is a very tricky situation for this author and for the people who read her or do not want to read her. So if this is not your jam, again, feel free to forward into the next book that I'm going to share with you. But her books are about death. Her books are about sexuality. They're about bullying. They're about coming of age. They're about religion at times. And so this is why people don't always like these books, because they feel as though they're too much for young people. And I can get that point of view. I definitely can. I understand that. And I think for me, and this is just my opinion, then don't get them or don't let your kids read them. And I know that's tricky sometimes because kids end up doing what they're going to do, whether you say no or not. But that's typically been my stance on book banning, is that, it's public content and it's tricky. It's just tricky. So anyway, the journalist Mark Oppenheimer, who's written a number of biographies, really takes a hard look at her life and what happened to her as she was evolving as an artist, and probably what happened to her as a young person too. And she contributes to some of this. So I think there's a lot of own voice in this book as well. So I think it's going to be very honest, very open. It does talk about her own sexual experiences growing up, about her own experiences in other ways, about loss and heartache and all the things that humans sometimes go through, but I think it will be good. Whether or not I can read a 480 plus page book about Judy Blume, I don't know, but I'd throw it here because I think it's an important one for you to know about. 8 is Once and Again by Rebecca Searle, which also comes out on March 10th. March 10th is a big day. I have read a book by Rebecca Searle. I read One Italian Summer. That was it. All right. I read that a few years ago. This one has a 3.68 rating and has a number of ratings. So a lot of people must have requested this as an ARC. And it is a romance, magical realism, fiction, contemporary, fantasy, and time travel. And a lot of her books have this same kind of setup. So I remember enjoying One Italian Summer. I don't think I gave it 5 stars. Let me see before I tell you that. I gave it 3 stars. I've also almost picked up expiration dates, but have not. So if you've read Rebecca Searle and you've enjoyed it, let me know, and I, will take that into consideration as to whether or not I decide to pick this one up. All right, here's the reason this one hit me, because I am a fan of telling my clients, people I love and care about, or people I meet, that we are all the sum total of all the experiences that we've had in our lives up to this very moment. And many of those experiences, good, bad, neutral, have influenced us in some way or fashion. And they definitely influence us sometimes to do things that we later regret or to do things that are completely wonderful. And a lot of times we grieve over the things that we didn't do. So that's what I'm going to say about my philosophy. So the premise of this is that this family, the women in this family, have the ability to turn back an incident just once in time. So they have the power to stop something and rewind it a bit. Just the once, though, so you have to use it carefully, right? So Lauren, the main character in this novel, was 15, and her mom turned back time and saved her father from a deadly car accident. And so she's always remembered that, obviously. But her dad's alive and well, and her mother, Marcella, is a little bit not like Lauren. She's very free-spirited, and she does a lot of kind of things that Lauren would not necessarily do. So she's been in between these two, kind of loud parent and then a kind of a quiet, happy parent. But her husband takes a job in New York, and she moves back to Malibu to be with her parents and live with them while her husband is at this other job. And when she returns back to Malibu, she does not expect that the boy that she lived next door to has returned, and that was her first love. So there are some feelings that she has about that person. I don't know what's going to happen, but it does say she falls into familiar patterns with her family and with this particular man. So this one is possibly another one that will not work for you and won't be a Krista book. I don't know, but I am taking a look and see what people think about it before I decide to jump in or not. It's not a buy for me. I won't probably do that. I didn't buy One Italian Summer either when I read that. But anyway, this is like, can you undo the things that you did in the past? Is that time travel thing going to then, something that she does that erases what she does with the love of her life from childhood? I don't know. But romance, magical realism, fiction, contemporary fantasy, time travel. There's a lot of stuff she packs in one book for sure, but I also really like that philosophy of you are where you are because of the things that happen. And some of them aren't choices you made, but you made choices based on the other things that happened to you. So sometimes it's just a crapshoot, isn't it? This next one, Goodreads says that this one is destined to become a literary blockbuster of the season. I don't know if that will happen, but this is by Mieko Kawakami. It is translated by Laurel Taylor and Hitomi Yoshio, and this is a Japanese novel called Sisters in Yellow. And this has a 3.82. It has a good number of ratings already, and it is thrilling, and it is a Japanese Breaking Bad, which is what caught my eye. I know I'm kind of doing some really dark twisty criminal minds and situations kind of stuff in this one, aren't I? There were a lot of books that I took off this list, but I don't know what has got me. Maybe it's Murderous March coming up in my read-alongs. I don't know. So this is about Hannah, and Hannah has been kind of a quiet young person who's been pitied and maybe not treated the way that she wants to be treated by her mom. And so she meets a woman named Kamiko, and Kamiko is flashy and younger and crazy about talking about school and boys and all kinds of things that apparently now appeal to Hannah. So they end up opening up a business called Lemon. It's a bar. And in the bar, they remake their lives by fighting predatory lenders, organized criminals, and just plain bad luck that happens as they connect with these people in some way. So this one is about keeping the business going and trying to take care of each other, obviously, but it's also about the street life and the nightlife of Tokyo, about crime in Tokyo, about the classes, criminal classes, and just, generally being in this space probably is a little dramatic. So this one is literary fiction, obviously Japanese literature, probably a little bit of, crime, thriller kind of situation. It's set in the 1990s, I think. So again, this is, I don't know that they would consider that historical fiction, but maybe. I might take a look at this one. I entered a giveaway for it, so if I get the giveaway, I definitely will look at it, but it sounds pretty raucous. All right, I hesitate to bring this one to you because this is book 4 in a series that I haven't read. And in fact, the first one I DNF'd softly anyway. I still own it. I'm still on the fence about whether this is going to work for me, but I'm bringing it to you because a lot of people love this author. This is Everyone in This Bank is a Thief by Benjamin Stevenson. And I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about this one because it's the 4th in the Ernest Cunningham series. And if you haven't read any of the others, this one might throw you for a loop. But the basic premise of this is that Ernest Cunningham belongs to a family that has a long history of crime, and he and his family have been in some pickle, at least in the first book, that would suggest that they are maybe having to sometimes go on the run, or that they're just dipping their toes into something that's not good. So I don't know what this one is about, but it's mystery thriller, fiction, crime, adult for sure, and it has a 3.91 rating at this point, with a lot of people having looked at this one too, and it's expected to release on the 17th of March. I will say these covers, this one is probably my favorite. These covers are very intriguing and they kind of draw you in. But I don't know what it was about that, but it could have been just the wrong place, wrong time for me for that first one. So nothing is quite what it seems, it says, on this spin of a classic bank heist with more suspects, more puzzles, and more danger than Ernest has ever faced before. I feel confident in telling you that, but that's about it. But take a look if you so choose. Then number 11, I'm also not going to tell you a whole lot about because I haven't read book 1 in this series, but this is Say You'll Remember Me, book number 2, called The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. This one is the sequel to Say You'll Remember Me, which was, of course, book 1. It's expected out on the 31st of March, so you have to wait till the end of the month to receive it. It has a 4.39 rating with a good number of people who have read it as well. And again, I'm not going to tell you much about this one. The first one, Say You'll Remember Me, is about memory loss. And a lot of people were expecting that one to be something different, I think, at least people I have chatted with about it. But I do need to get to that one because I don't want to get too far behind. But this is a contemporary romance fiction set in the summer. So I would suggest you either read it in the winter when you want summer vibes, or you read it in the summer when you want summer vibes. It's a rom-com. Abby Jimenez, though, is good at this sort of thing. I really have enjoyed her. I've read a number of short stories as well as a couple or three, maybe 3 books. I will probably buy this one because I have a bunch of hers sitting right there, but I don't know. We'll see. I probably will. Yeah, I probably will. It could be a Book of the Month Club selection too, because there's that. Right, and then the last one, number 12, is Ruins by Lily Brooks Dalton. This is expected to be released also on 31 March. Bit of a wait, 3.78 currently rated. Not a lot of people have read it. I don't think a lot of people talk about The Light Pirate either, which I have over there, and that's why I really probably will buy this one because I loved The Light Pirate. It was edgy, it was sad, it was dark. Feeling a theme here. It was unique, it was speculative, but I really, really liked it. So this one is also science fiction, literary fiction, mystery, thriller, queer, fantasy, contemporary. I don't know a ton about this, but this is about a professor named Ember Agni, and she's an archaeologist, and she's trying to rise, or is a rising star in that work, and trying to balance her career, which isn't quite living up to what she wanted it to be, with her marriage crumbling as well. So she's got a lot going on. And again, it's kind of sad, but she's pursuing a lost empire, which we've all kind of, over the years read books about or watched movies about. And they really have been, for me, something that draws me in as well. So when I read this, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to love this. So it is, of course, looking for places that nobody else realized existed. And so somebody comes to her and says she's found something like this and she wants her to help. So she has to, it's a former student, and so she has to go to this new place and risk everything to try to discover something that either will make her, a well-known, complete sort of star in the archaeological world, or will make people, just ridicule her and think that she's a crazy person. So she challenges a lot of limits. She must choose who she wants to be and to what kind of world she wants to belong. So I'm assuming that she discovers something that is quite fantastical, and I think it's going to be a good read for me as well, since I liked The Light Pirate. I will say that a lot of people did not like The Light Pirate as much as I did, and so, it may just not be, her work may just not be your jam, but I really thought she did an incredible job of telling an incredible story that did not go in the direction that I thought it might, and was uncomfortable at times, but also was beautifully written. And the ending of The Light Pirate was worth every moment of uncertainty and what that you might have had when you read it. If you agree, let me know. If you don't, let me know that too. So again, as always, let me know what you think about these. And if you've had an arc of them, obviously I want to know that too. But there's some of these that are really, really tricky. And again, I don't know how many of them I will read, but for me, I guess in the month of March, I decided I was just going to bring you all the things and just throw them in the room, and then you decide which toy you want to play with, essentially. And in some cases, you may be afraid of playing with those toys. I know. I don't know what's wrong with me. Thanks for watching today. If you're new to my channel, feel free to subscribe if that's something you'd like to do. I'd love it if you would push the like button on this video, as it makes me feel happy and good and know that you were here and that you liked it. Let me know in the comments below what you're anticipating in March, if these aren't them, if they are them, whatever you want me to know about your reading plans for the next month. Again, my read along is going the second month in March will be Murderous March, so I could read any one of these in March and be very happy, but I'm preparing for that as well. If you'd like to leave an emoji in the comments below, you could probably get really creative with this. You've got some Golden Girls guys, an island, you've got a lake, you've got money in a bank, you've got a dog. I mean, the dog would be the easiest one of all of these. So yeah, feel free to leave those in the comments below. I hope you're all having a great day. I hope you have a terrific week. And as always, happy reading. Bye.